Hi, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Coral. I'm the CEO of GoBox, and here today to talk about our licensing program. So thanks very much for being interested in reusables, being interested in GoBox. I'm excited to have folks joining us here from all over. I think we have somebody joining us from Norway, Mexico City, all across the United States, maybe some folks in Canada. So it's so awesome to see interest coming from communities all over the place, and really excited to have the opportunity to tell you about GoBox. And this is meant to serve as kind of an introduction to our licensing program. There will be a lot of questions that hopefully come out of this, and that's great. That's what should occur. And so once we get to that point, if you're interested in continuing our conversation, I would invite you to reach out to me after this call, and we can set up some one-on-one time. We'll kind of have to see how that filters out and how much interest there is. But go ahead and start on the presentation. I'm hoping that everyone can see my screen here. It says GoBox Reuse to Go. Let's see. All right, I'll just jump into it. I'll also say that this is the first, y'all are all kind of my guinea pigs. This is the first time I've had a webinar for our licensing program. So thanks for your patience. And again, just for being here and for your interest. So here we go. So what is the problem that we're trying to solve for? Every year, over 8 million metric tons of plastic is entering into our oceans. And most Americans, and I'm sorry, this presentation is kind of specific to the US. I was having a hard time finding statistics worldwide that seemed really concrete that I felt good using. But here in America, a full 65% of us are concerned about ocean plastic. And, recycling and composting cannot fix this issue. Those are linear systems that still require virgin resources to be utilized, energy to be expended, greenhouse gases to be produced through those recycling and composting processes. So we're trying to provide something radically different. And our solution helps to eliminate the over 180 billion single-use plastic products that Americans are using for takeout every single year. And I added a quote to this page that is coming from a Greenpeace report that I would encourage you all to read. It's really interesting, called Throwing Away the Future. So there's been a wave of public concern about global plastic pollution crisis, heightened by the growing scientific evidence about its ecological and social impacts. As a priority, we call for the reduction of units sold in single-use packaging and for investment in solutions focused on reuse, refill, and other systems not dependent upon disposables. So that bodes pretty well for a bright future of reusables and for our product in particular. So GoBox is a circular zero waste system providing clean on-demand reusables that are borrowed and returned through a user-friendly app. And we've already eliminated over 194,000 single-use disposables, which is equivalent to 7.8 tons of waste, or about an African elephant. So feeling good about that, and really just hoping to continue to grow our impact. Briefly, GoBox was founded in 2011 by Laura Weiss. When it first launched, it was a token-based system, so you had a physical wooden coin, I believe it was, that you exchanged or was returned to you depending upon how you were engaging in the cycle, either checking a reusable out or returning a reusable. We launched the mobile app in 2015. The first GoBox license system launched in 2015 as well. That was in San Francisco. And then in June 2018, I took over here from Laura. Laura grew the system. Back when she first launched it in 2011, people were not talking about plastic pollution the way they are now. So Laura did such an amazing job setting a foundation, working really hard to kind of devise our circular system and how it could operate. And then she decided to retire with her husband, and they moved north to Washington State, and that's when I took over. So I've been at it for a little over a year and a half now, and seen a lot of growth and a lot of interest. The timing was really close to when the National Sword Policy was enacted by China. That kind of shook up our whole domestic recycling system. So it was really about that summer when folks were taking a closer look into our plastic waste problem here and what they can do about it. So we kind of harnessed that wave and have been riding it since. And I think, you know, the problem's not going away anytime soon. So we still have a lot of growth opportunity here. So I want to walk through basically how our system works. And I will caveat this by saying that this is what we have devised for our system here in Portland. There are other reuse systems in place in operation in other parts of the world that are operating with some similarities and some differences in various scales, of, you know, small to large size cities. So, you know, generally we're in the pretty early days of reuse, and there's still a lot to work out as the markets are kind of forced to adapt to different influences. Like even this weekend in the kind of the oil market shakeup that Saudi Arabia is kind of putting us all in. Who knows how it could affect plastic production. So things like that will kind of have an effect on the future of reuse. But without falling too far down the rabbit hole, I just wanted to say, this is what we have built here in Portland. It's working really well in Portland, and we'll talk about some statistics and traction. And this is, when we're looking at a licensing program, this is how we would advise licensees to build their system as well. But the licensee system does allow a little bit of flexibility in how the licensee actually executes on, you know, on the solution using our assets. So this is not a hard and fast required model. Again, it's just what we have devised here in Portland, and that's what's working really well. So starting at the top, we partner with food vendors across the city. We're currently partnered with 110 food vendors. So we onboard them into the system, we get them set up with a profile, and then they can be found on our mobile app and on our website. And we're gonna supply them with a stock of GoBox containers that will renew every week. We'll basically be visiting every week to restock them with containers that have been checked out through that week. So that's kind of our step one, is we visit those food vendors and we get them supplied with the containers that they need for the week. The next step, following it to the right, is that a subscriber borrows the container. So we are a subscriber-based system. People have to purchase a subscription to access GoBox. Here in Portland, we offer both a monthly and annual option, and then a few different credit levels. And a credit equates to being able to check out a reusable container. So we offer 1 and 2 credit monthly subscriptions, and we offer 1 all the way up to 4 credit annual subscriptions. And again, so a 4 credit annual subscription is going to allow that subscriber to check out up to 4 containers, not necessarily at once. You know, they could check out 2 and then the next day check out another 2, and then they would be at their max. And then they would have to return those containers to the system to check another one out. And we'll walk through what that process looks like for the subscriber. So the subscriber checks out the container using the mobile app. When they're done with it, they'll return it to the GoBox drop site. These drop sites are located around town, and hopefully very convenient locations for the subscribers to make that return very simple. If a food vendor is able to host a drop site, we encourage them to do so. We see higher utilization rates at vendors that have a drop site. But we've also partnered with other local businesses like banks or bike shops or home goods stores to host drop sites. And we also have a corporate partner program, and this allows property management firms or private employers to host a private GoBox drop site. That's kind of a special green benefit for their employees to access. So once those containers are returned, then the GoBox team, we go around, we collect the dirty containers from the drop sites, you know, clean that all up, make sure it's looking good, and then transport the dirty containers to a commercial kitchen where we use commercial dishwashing equipment to wash and sanitize our containers. We allow them to air dry, and then once that process is complete, we restock our food vendors. So specifically how it works from a subscriber's perspective, There's kind of two interactions they have with our system. The first is when they're checking reusables out. The second is when they're returning the reusables. So a checkout process, very simple. They open up the GoBox mobile app. If they have a credit available on their system, they'll be, it'll open right to the pickup page or the checkout page, and they enter in a 4-digit vendor code. So each one of our vendors has a unique 4-digit code. Once the subscriber enters that code in, if they have multiple credits available, they'll be allowed to select how many they want to use. And then they'll get a good to go screen on their phone. And that's the screen they have to show the food vendor to validate that they have actually checked out a reusable. So the good to go screen will have the vendor's name on it. It'll have a timestamp of when the subscriber checked it out. And it'll note how many reusables are being checked out. And again, all that the subscriber has to do is literally like turn their phone around to show the food vendor the screen. The food vendor doesn't have to touch the screen. It doesn't interact at all with their standard, with their POS systems. And that system works really well because it's very easy for our food vendors to implement this in such a way that it really doesn't negatively affect their operations. Okay, so the subscriber enters in that vendor code, shows the good to go screen, gets their meal in a container. Once they're done with it, they'll return it, and we expect the containers to be returned dirty, although we do ask that containers are returned without any trash in them or food and drink. And by and large, we're washing many hundreds of containers a week now here in Portland. And it's a very small percentage of them that come back really gross, that might have been sitting in a trunk of a car for a week or so. By and large, our subscribers are really great about even going the distance to give the container a rinse before they put it into the drop site. So once they get to that drop site, this sign here on the right will be affixed to the lid of the drop site. And so that QR code there is what the subscriber will use to confirm the reusable is being returned. So they'll open up the mobile app, navigate to the return page, snap a photo of that QR code. It'll ask how many reusables are being returned if that subscriber has multiple reusables checked out. And then once they have done that, they'll get a good to go screen that kind of confirms their return was recorded, and then they just drop the reusables into the drop site. So to confirm, this is what a GoBox container looks like. I don't know if you can see my screen. Yeah, I'm not sure. But our containers are not, they're not RFID chipped or anything at this point. They're just containers. And so we cannot really tell for sure which container the individual returned, right? There's this moment of karma when somebody has to, scan that QR code and say they're returning it, and then they actually have to open the lid of the drop site and drop that reusable in there. By and large, that's happening here in Portland. And in fact, we often find more containers than what we're expecting in our drop sites. So the lesson here is that it's a work in progress to continuously be teaching our subscribers that they need to use our mobile app to make sure that they're properly checking out and returning containers, and educating our food vendors that they need to see that good to go screen. But by and large, this is a system that is working here in Portland. We're seeing a single digit kind of loss rate of our reusables. And even that's hard to determine because we don't require subscribers to return the containers in any specific time period. So we'll move on. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions about this, and I'll be sure to address as many of those at the end as we can. All right, so just wanted to walk you through our revenue sources with the GoBox model here. So the first one is that subscription service. Those are the end users, the customers that are trying to reduce their plastic footprint, and they're paying us to help them do that. The primary benefit that we're offering them are these professionally cleaned, on-demand reusables at their favorite restaurants that they just have to return when they're done using them. So it's a very easy program for most people to be able to utilize. And for folks that are becoming more concerned with their plastic footprint, ours is an easy solution to help them address that. So our vendors also pay into this system. They pay a one-time setup fee to kind of have their profile built on our system. And then ongoing, we're tracking how many clean containers that we're stocking them on a weekly basis. And then we'll invoice them 25 cents per container. For most of our food vendors, you know, Styrofoam has been not allowed in Portland for a really long period of time. So the single-use containers that our food vendors are often using are kind of the sturdier plastic containers that you would get like Thai food in, or we're also seeing a lot of compostable, kind of that fiber molded. And those kind of higher end, heavier duty, bioplastic kind of products, the 25 cents GoBox stocking fee is pretty cost comparable to what they're paying for those single-use products. So for our food vendors, it's pretty, you know, it can be cost neutral for them to participate in GoBox. In addition to the benefit that we're providing them basically to help differentiate their business as a progressively minded company that is willing and wanting to offer their customers, you know, a sustainable option for takeout food. All right, the corporate sponsored drop sites I mentioned previously, those are the private employers, property management firms that are hosting a private GoBox drop site in their facility. And they pay a sliding scale anywhere from $95 a month to $115 per month. And yeah, they kind of use it as offering a green benefit to their employees. You know, we're really excited to be working with a number of great companies based here in downtown Portland, some of which I'm sure a few of you would recognize. This is really a growing revenue stream for us as well. You'd be surprised at how many, think of like your local B Corps or 1% for the Planet companies that want to talk or walk the walk rather than just talk the talk. And so partnering with them to make it easy for them to offer GoBox to their employees is a really good match. And then we also have catering and events, and we do both large and small scale catering, anywhere from 15 to 20 meals all the way up to 700 meals. And we basically just kind of charge them a rental fee depending upon the level of service that we're providing. All right, this is a sheet that's kind of specific to where we are here in Portland, but I wanted to provide it because I think it just helps to, it offers some market validation. And I know that Portland is, a progressively minded city. Definitely people are really connected to the outdoors here. And so they, their understanding of the plastic pollution is pretty high. I mean, I think that the national sword policy that China enacted really impacted folks here in Portland that are kind of like militant recyclers. And once they learned that all of the work that they were doing to like carefully rinse out the recyclables and put it in the blue bin perfectly, maybe to the point where they were wishful recycling and adding things to the bins that weren't allowed. Like, in fact, single-use food and drink containers are often one of those things that are found in recycling bins that are not recyclable easily. Here in Portland, they're not recyclable. That stereotypical kind of single-use coffee cup, the white paper lined with plastic, that thing is darn near impossible to recycle because of the way that the different materials are kind of joined together. And so all of this to say that yes, Portland is kind of a crunchy market, and wherever you're coming from might not be so progressively minded, but we're still, I think that there's still a growing audience of folks that are really wanting to reduce their single-use footprint. And the future, again, is bright for us, not just with this kind of oil market turmoil and the, sort of the attention that might bring to the overall industry, but also just the way that people are ordering more food to go, and the way that cities and municipalities are becoming more interested in how they can help to fight plastic waste. And so we're going to start seeing more I mean, every week we hear of more bans and fees that are being in place for single-use bags or straws. So I think it's only a matter of time before we get to food containers and drink containers. Okay, so to this point here in Portland, we've prevented over 194,000 single-use containers, eliminated as either landfill or litter. We've had some pretty significant growth, again, I think really driven just to the growing awareness. So 112% revenue growth in 2019 over 2018. At this point, just in the past 2 months here, you know, we're seeing double-digit growth in terms of new subscribers, new food vendors, and we're seeing a monthly recurring revenue of over $9,000. That's both a mix of the corporate partner and the subscriber. Our subscriber acquisition costs have been quite low as well. We really try to leverage our food vendors to help us. So we provide them with marketing materials like postcards and other signage that help them communicate to their customers that GoBox is an option. And then we have a pretty standard kind of subscription churn rate of about 6%. Okay, let's talk about our licensing program now. So we provide a time and cost-efficient go-to-market strategy, and here is the list of the assets that we're providing our licensees. So we're going to build out a digital ecosystem that includes the back-end admin system that you're going to use to operate your system. It includes both the mobile and Apple app applications and your consumer-facing website as well that connects to a payment processing platform. Oh, actually, that's that second bullet point, the website framework with the payment processor setup, the GoBox branding and style guide, a bunch of intellectual capital such as standard operating procedures, contract and sales plan templates. We're going to provide you with a product specification, so the containers we use and how best to buy them, drop sites, liner bags, you know, how if you're looking to use a bike and trailer for your operations as we do in Portland, we can help you build that out. We also now have a delivery van here in Portland and, you know, helping you kind of build up the operational platform that you need to manage your system. Promotional assets, excuse me, such as professional photos, flyers, postcards, signage, marketing plan templates, and that asset list will continue to grow as we develop and design more, and we just kind of intend to be able to provide that to all of our licensees so that you can either use as is or manipulate it, you know, to add your kind of unique system spin on it. And then the licensee network, and this is something that really kind of drives me. And the concept of this licensing program is really, I think, unique, and I would like to try to build something here that's unique as well, and really helps to you know, empower you as local owners, provide a local solution to your local community. But rather than just siloing ourselves off into separate companies, finding a way that really we can work together to share best practices, share resources, share information, share empathy, and share ownership as well. And you know, we're still I'm still operating as a LLC here. We're looking to incorporate this year, potentially take on some outside funding as well, all of which will supplement our licensing program, and I think really help to build out this network. And one of the aspects of that, going through this transition to an incorporated business, it would be to build out some kind of employee ownership program, stock ownership program. And I have some work to do still to learn how that can be kind of worked into a licensing based system. But that is something that we're really striving for here. I feel like the co-ownership model really helps to push people to be successful for their own right. And I'm really excited to be able to work with everybody to get there. Some key terms that we have in our licensing agreement. So you're going to get territory exclusivity within your local city or region. So that means you know, no other GoBox system could infringe on your space and create competition there. Some monthly time consulting with myself to make sure that you're And that 2 hours is, that's kind of, once we get into the ongoing maintenance, kind of ongoing kind of just operations. There's much more kind of hand-holding and support that goes into the pre-launch through launch process. And then in agreement terms, you know, we're looking at least 2-year, ideally a 3-year minimum, and then an option to very easily renew and extend that contract out if we feel like it's working best for everybody. So on to pricing, and this is really kind of just to start the conversation. You know, all the aspects of these agreements are negotiable, but this is what we have set right now as our pricing, and we think it's really fair for what we're offering currently. I think that in the future, particularly as we build out this program and we can offer additional resources to new licensees, I definitely see the initial licensing fee going up. But for the time being, we're charging $5,000 for your initial licensing fee. That's basically helping to cover the development cost for your technical platform, your digital assets, the app and the backend system, and then all of the consulting time that it'll take to help you get the thing up and running, providing you with all the assets, things like that. And then the annual licensing fee, $2,500. That's helping to just cover the cost to maintain your system, as well as going to help to invest in new features. So we have a kind of a development roadmap that we have built out. It's one that is flexible, and in fact, it's something that I would like licensee input on. You know, again, back to that concept of kind of a big table of co-owners that are helping to drive the general direction and input where they think our shared resources should go into in terms of developing new features. And then there's a revenue-based fee share of 5%, and that's from top-line revenue. This screen is just kind of to show you some of the key competitive aspects that we have going for us here at GoBox compared to other single-use disposables or customer BYO options. So the fact that we're on demand, we're a subscription model. You know, you pay once and you're done. And sorry about that. You know, we're app-based. There are some systems that seem to be sort of anti-app, and they do the, you know, it's a cash-based system. I'm not here to say what style of system is better or, you know, not. I think that there are some real advantages that we have with an app-based system when it comes to ease of managing operationally, ease of keeping track of impact, ease of kind of tracking utilization. We get a lot of data through our system that we hope helps to influence, you know, how we grow our system here in Portland, or just learning how people use GoBox is really, really interesting. So our containers are professionally cleaned and sanitized. You know, there is the option to work with third-party vendors to have containers cleaned. And in fact, GoBox previously did do that, but about a year ago, we took on managing all of our own washing. We thought from a liability perspective, it's probably more advantageous to just have control over that process ourselves. And, you know, I think it's also one of the benefits that we're offering our food vendors. Even those food vendors that do have dishwashing in-house, which many of them that we work with do not, you know, them having to wash additional capacity is going to put a burden on their current operations, their labor team, and things like that. So us, you know, really managing the washing of the containers. We work really closely with our local health authorities to make sure that they're comfortable with our processes. And then we can assure our food vendors and we can assure our customers that we're taking the utmost care and respect for making sure that these containers are really clean before they re-enter the system. Low impact on vendor operation makes it very easy to encourage food vendor participation. It is scalable, you know, case in point. When I acquired GoBox in June 2018, we had about 50 food vendors. As I said, we're up to 110, and we're getting more inquiries from food vendors every week. You know, we do a fair bit of outreach to food vendors as well, but it's great to see food vendors reaching out to us wanting to participate. Obviously, we stand to benefit from single-use regulations and bans that are forthcoming, and our system is zero waste. You know, once a container kind of reaches the end of its useful lifespan, which we assume to be a couple hundred uses, maybe 200 to 400 uses, depending upon how abusive our subscribers and food vendors are with our containers, but they're pretty darn durable, you know, and certainly not impacted at all by the heat of the dishwashing system. They're also microwavable safe. And when we're done with them, we can work with a local recycler and provide them basically with a, you know, all one product that are clean and very, very easy for them to recycle. And ideally, they're upcycling them. So these containers are turning into something that will continue to be useful for a long period of time versus just being downcycled into like a plastic bag or something like that. A note about the containers that we use. We're using the GET, the Eco Takeout containers, which I assume many of you may be familiar with. If not, you can just search for GET Eco Takeout containers. We utilize 4 different sizes. Our food vendors tend to really appreciate the fact that they can self-select what sizes work best for the type of food that they're offering. You know, they're BPS, BPA free. They are made from virgin plastic and they're coming from China. But in terms of their environmental impact, we can neutralize their production and transportation to us footprint after only 30 uses. So what I mean by that is after 30 times through the cycle, they have negated the carbon footprint of their production and transportation to us. And then everything from that point forward is kind of bonus. That is an important consideration, I think, because other materials, you know, heavier materials such as steel or aluminum or glass, they're going to have a higher production footprint, but they may be more durable. So I think there's a lot of different, well, there's not a ton of different options out there on the market actually for reusables. We feel really confident using the ones that we have currently. And we're potentially interested in getting into the production game in the future. I think, you know, it would obviously require some resources to do so. But once we bought a mold, basically, we could work with a local producer and we could even have a greater kind of say over the type of materials that our containers are being are being made with, I should say. And, you know, at that point, we could see using recycled material in our containers. And long-term vision would be really great to kind of have this system whereby we're retiring GoBox containers, we're recycling them into new containers. So that's a word about our containers. GoBox licensees are not required to use the same containers that we use here in Portland. You can kind of choose what containers you'd like to use for yourself. But obviously we would, advise you to consider the containers we've utilized because we do think that they're a good one. All right, I think that's all I got. So what I'd like to do at this point is allow the group to unmute yourselves and ask some questions, or feel free to chat in the chat box too if you're more comfortable doing that. So, and we'll, let's see, yeah, we have about 10 minutes or so for questions.
Hey, this is Paula from Vancouver. I was just wondering what additional cost you guys currently have, because you mentioned that you guys have kitchens where you clean everything. People are obviously picking up the containers as well. I'm just curious what else you're doing.
That's a great question. And one of the things, if our conversation, or if we turn into a one-on-one conversation, one of the things that we'll get to kind of next up after we get an NDA signed is we can provide you with a pro forma that we've built out that kind of showcases how your revenue streams and expense streams look like over the course of your first year or two of operation. So our standard expenses, we have to buy containers, we have to produce drop sites. Those tend to be something that we invest kind of in batches, and then we have available to kind of pull from and use as needed. Other ongoing kind of operational expenses, we wash our containers in a commissary kitchen, so we're renting out from them. It's about, for us, it's $17 an hour, and then I'm also paying an employee to wash containers. I'm sorry, if you're not speaking, if you don't mind just muting your computer for the time being, I'd appreciate it. So that being said, we've just about kind of maxed out the cost efficiency for our commissary kitchen. And so we're moving into a 2,000 square foot commercial kitchen this month, which I'm really excited about, which will allow us to expand. So, the kitchen expense is one I think that will grow as utilization grows. But that's something to consider. We use a bike and trailer to do a lot of our operations, so that was an upfront expense. And then general maintenance for that. We also have a delivery van, so we're kind of paying that off, and gas expenses for that. And then we have a team of operating assistants, and those are the folks that are going out to do the deliveries and the pickups for me. And I pay all my employees $15 an hour. And then we also have a consultant that's helping us with sales and marketing, and we're hoping to get an intern this summer as well. So that's kind of what our team here looks like in kind of general expenses. Otherwise, the overhead I think is pretty low for ongoing operations, or definitely could be made to be pretty low. And that's the growth trajectory that GoBox here in Portland has always taken, which is just kind of like the steady but sustainable growth. Where we're able to be profitable and reinvest in our business while still, taking care of our employees as best we can and working on scaling. So, got a question here in the group chat. I'll get to real quick. Do you have to charge taxes to the vendors and customers? That's something to work out with your local municipality. We don't have tax here in Portland, so we don't have to charge taxes to our subscribers or to our food vendors. Next question here is, each licensee using the same app, or is GoBox launching a new app for each licensee? Great question. We have one app, and so when we launch a new system, what we're launching is basically an access point to your back-end system. So everybody's back-end systems are separate. I have my own back-end Portland system. Each system kind of has their own database there, but the app interface is the same. People just log into their specific system. And there's a benefit in that from a development and kind of maintenance perspective, it's way easier and cost effective for us to develop the app kind of by a singular team and push updates or new features in that way. There's also, the desire in the future for GoBox subscribers in different cities to be able to utilize the system in a new city. Kind of maybe paying a per use rate or something like that, so that the city that they're traveling to, that licensee does earn the revenue based on the utilization in their system. Okay, how often do you empty drop boxes and how do you keep them hygienic? Most of our drop boxes are only emptied once a week. We do have some contracts with food vendors that are really trying to drive utilization, and we visit twice a week there. Again, most of our containers are returned rinsed, and definitely, if a container is returned dirty, it's often returned closed. And so, here in Portland, we do not see an issue with like odors or pests, bugs or rodents being attracted to the drop site. It hasn't been an issue, and I can't imagine in the future if utilization continues as such. We do, have relationships with our food vendors and our drop site hosts, and so if there's a particularly odorous container that finds its way to a drop site, they can always call us and we can get over there to service them more frequently. But one of the aspects that we do when we're communicating to our subscribers is asking them to do that one quick rinse, or at least knocking out any large food particles into a compost bin before they return the drop site container to the drop site. So the customer, next question. So the customer downloads a single app that will work across cities. Yes, a GoBox subscriber downloads the GoBox mobile app, and using the one GoBox mobile app, they could be able to log into different systems that they have bought into. When will the app be available for download in Canada? It already is. The GoBox app is on the App Store. You can download it to your Apple or Android phone and take it for a test drive. It would require you to sign up for a subscription. And I'm happy to, in our follow-up conversation, provide a more detailed kind of walkthrough of our app and of our backend system. That would be kind of post NDA when we get to that point. What features are you working on to improve the apps, and when is the timeline of those? That's a pretty detailed question. I don't think that this hall is appropriate to kind of work through our development roadmap, but push notifications is something that we've been working on insofar as just being able to communicate to our subscribers, like when we launch a new food vendor in their neighborhood. We are building out kind of a loyalty-based program that allows folks to donate their use for a nonprofit. And this is kind of playing off of our 1% for the Planet relationship and kind of passing that along to our customers and kind of building out the user experience in such a way that they're feeling like they have the ability to really make multiple impact, not only in reducing waste, but supporting local nonprofit as well. What are the reasons vendors give you when they drop off from the program? Well, in the year and a half that I've worked here, we've had maybe 6 food vendors leave our service. 5 of them were just closing business, so it's hard to fight against that. The one food vendor that did decide to walk away, they are a larger company, and they, with multiple locations. We started in one. We actually started with a Cup, and it was one of the first cafes that we launched with the Cup, and they just didn't see the kind of traction that they wanted to see, so they decided to pull back for the time being, and we've actually recently re-engaged with them to try to do another launch in such a way that will help to drive interest and really utilization there, so they feel like it's a valuable option to offer their subscribers. All right, you mentioned moving into commercial kitchen soon. Is this a shared space? Yes, it will be a shared space, but we are kind of taking the majority of the time in the space there. And we also have the option as we scale to kind of take over more time and space. That move is really meant to just allow us to be more comfortable and confident chasing after some bigger contracts. Right now, past month or two, as we've seen utilization growing so quickly, we've kind of been maxed out on our time at the commissary kitchen, and they kind of work as an accelerator for small businesses, and at some point in time, the businesses accelerate so much that this kind of space doesn't work for them any longer, and that's what we kind of bumped up against, and it's a good thing. I'm really excited to move into a big space that we can kind of design out as a real specific dishwashing facility. So. The message we receive when trying to download that. Scott, let's talk after this about that. I'm not quite sure what error you're receiving. So, next question here: do you have any national partnerships that would help giving a local licensee a springboard? That's one of the things that we're working on. I guess kind of back to one of the development roadmaps is an API that we would be able to coordinate with a bunch of third-party systems like food delivery systems, and certainly the app being ready to integrate into different systems like that would be a great boon. We're working with some national brands here in Portland as well that I know are really hungry to be able to provide reusables to their customers, and so as new systems coming on board, being able to say like, okay, how many Whole Foods do you have in your neighborhood or in your region now? You can kind of like get going with them. They've been waiting for you. But at this point, I think again, this is a $5,000 licensee fee. That it's considerably lower than a lot of the other business licenses out there. It's because we're still in early days here. And we're looking for folks that are comfortable in that space and knowing that you're buying into something early that's going to be growing in a lot of different directions. But yeah, that that there's still work to do to kind of continue to build out and add value to this program, and we're going to be working to do that. Okay. Yeah, you want to try to sign up for the Act, but you have to choose credits, right? That's what I said. I'll connect with folks afterwards if they want to test drive the app. So that's not an option that we're offering right now in this meeting, but we'll talk about it later. Is a commercial dishwasher required, or does a regular home dishwasher suffice? I would definitely say that a regular home dishwasher would not suffice, but you're going to need one of the first kind of homework assignments that I would suggest is to contact your local health authorities. Here in Portland, we work with the Oregon Department of Agriculture and the Multnomah Health Authority. They oversee different types of food establishments, both grocery stores and food carts and restaurants. They here in Portland, both those two organizations are bureaucratic organizations, and we kind of fall outside of the by the book categories of organizations that they currently work with. So they don't have the means to kind of to rubber stamp us as certified, like we don't have a license through them or anything. That leaves that could be viewed as a challenge, but I think we've tried to turn that into an opportunity by just having a really close working relationship with them, providing with them our operating procedures. Each time we move to a new kitchen or we adjust an aspect of our operations, we're engaging with them and making sure that they feel comfortable with our processes and what we're doing to ensure proper sanitation. And so, the commercial dishwasher is a big part of that. You're going to want a commercial dishwasher that's high heat, at least, and if not a high heat and mild chemical like a chlorine sanitizer, to make sure your reusables are really clean before they go back out there. How much do the drop sites cost to build? Are they located outside or inside? Our drop sites cost about $40. And then there's a nylon liner bag that goes on the inside as well, and that costs about $40. So all in, a drop box is about $100, as we have them designed here in Portland. They're for indoor use only. We do have a couple that we're testing out right now in food cart pods, and they're a bit of a people just aren't familiar with them yet, so we're finding a lot of trash accumulation in there. But so long as they're covered, they can withstand some elements. We're also working on designing a metal fabricated drop site that could in the future be put in the public right away. That being said, we are not hearing from customers that they need like 24-hour access to drop sites. Most of our drop sites are occurring when people are, motivated to use go box, and so they'll have their last go box. They'll find a drop site to return it, hopefully within the food vendor that they're going to check out another container. And as soon as they return that go box, the credit is made available again, so they can check another one out. So all but two right now that are just kind of being piloted outside are inside. About how many containers do you have to wash per week? Well, it's not so much that we have to wash per week, but how much we're excited to be washing per week. The past few weeks, we're seeing 700 to 800 containers per week, where we can wash about 75 containers an hour. So that's kind of our wash operations right now. Any experience or problem with the containers with high temperatures? It might be decreased pickup spend. You mean high, like external temperatures? I just wouldn't. I don't recall last summer that being an issue. Again, Portland's a pretty mild climate, again, we pick up once a week. These drop sites are in mostly climate controlled environments. If there's one that needs servicing earlier, then we get that heads up from the drop site host, and we can get over there and take care of it sooner. How many subscribers do we have? So we are up to 3,500 individual subscribers here in Portland, 110 food vendors, and we have about 85 drop sites now. Of those 85, I would say 40 or so, 45 are private, and another 10, 15 are public, but they're actually being subsidized by the host. So those are public drop sites that we're still getting corporate partner revenue from. All right, that was the last question. That was kind of like rapid fire, but I wanted to make sure to get through as many as we could here. We've run a little overtime. I know some people already dropped off, so I guess last question, and this is a great question to kind of wrap up on. Do I think the model would work in a small town? And I do. I mean, I think it just depends on your goals. You know, we here in Portland, it's a mid-sized metropolitan area that I am working to scale out to be a profitable business venture that allows me to, you know, have multiple employees and provide them with jobs, and to be working with lots of food vendors and really trying to drive this, you know, drive the impact and kind of serve as a model reuse community for all of our licensees. But I certainly think that our model can be scaled down or up depending upon what your goals are and how you're looking to manage it. So, you know, the foundation of our system is kind of, it sounds so much that it's profitable here in Portland. Again, early days of reuse. I can't offer you a guarantee that it's going to be successful in your community, but we're going to really work hard with you to try to make sure that it is. Is there not a commercial kitchen in your small town? How would you go about washing containers? You would partner maybe with a food vendor and pay them for access to the kitchen, maybe overnight hours or sometime when they're not busy, super early mornings. Maybe you would look for a church or a community center that has a commercial dishwashing equipment that you could partner with. You know, I think that you'd be surprised how many commissary kitchens there are around, and more kind of like ghost kitchens that are popping up, and those are really just production kitchens versus a full-scale restaurant. And so I think that there's a lot of options out there for where you could potentially be washing containers. Okay, seriously, last question, and then we'll call it good. And then what I'm going to advise you all to do is, if you have additional questions or follow-up, send me an email, put those questions in writing. Let me know kind of if you have any feedback of this presentation. I'm really interested to hear how this worked or maybe didn't work for people. And you know, if you want to continue learning more about GoBox, then let's get a one-on-one scheduled and start to dig into some of the details. So this last question here is operating. When do vendors want to stick up dirty and drop off clean containers? So we don't really give vendor an option when we're visiting them. We have developed our weekly operation. So different days of the week, we're visiting different neighborhoods. So our goal is really to make sure when we visit a food vendor that we're stocking them with enough inventory that will allow them to make it through until the next week when we visit them again, and maybe just have one or two left over. We're really trying to avoid having GoBox containers just kind of sit on the shelf and not move. We're really looking for less inventory, more movement of our current containers, again, because that kind of just goes back to our goal of trying to reduce overall impact. And so if we're not having to buy additional inventory to just hang out on the shelf at a food vendor, that's advisable, because those containers, if they're not being used, they're not, you know, kind of they're not doing their job of reducing waste, or at least not doing so effectively and kind of helping to negate their previous production impacts. So yeah, that's the answer to that is we have an operation schedule in place. Different days of the week we're visiting different food vendors, and you know, we try to be really efficient in how we visit food vendors. We deliver cleans, you know, and then while we're there, if they have a drop site, we take care of that too. It's a pretty quick process. I mean, we're in and out of a restaurant in a few minutes, both to like deliver those cleans and to pick up those dirties. So pretty efficient operating process. Okay, everybody, thanks very much for your time. We chatted for an hour, so I really appreciate your attention. I look forward to hearing from you again in an email and answering some of your questions, and hopefully working with some of you in the future to want to reuse system in your community. Thanks again for your time, and I hope you all have a great week. Take care. Bye.